Zainab went into labor on a quiet afternoon, the kind of pain that arrived without warning and refused to wait. At first, she thought it was another false alarm. She had felt cramps before, sharp reminders that her body was preparing. But this time, the pain stayed. A dull ache started in her lower back, tightening slowly, then rising in waves so strong they folded her forward. She pressed a trembling hand to her swollen belly, breathing through clenched teeth, whispering prayers she had repeated for years. Please, God, not now. Not alone. Her husband, Tunde, was not with her. He stood inside a crowded airport terminal, eyes fixed on the departure screen flashing the same cruel word, delayed. Again. He rubbed his face, fear and frustration burning in his chest. Please, he muttered. Just take off. Earlier that morning, his phone had buzzed with her message, I'm feeling strong pains. He replied instantly, hold on. I'm coming. Please wait for me. They had waited too long for this child. For 6 painful years, Zainab had not conceived. At first, the whispers were gentle, suggestions of herbs, prayers, patience. She smiled and endured quietly. But time hardened the whispers. At weddings, careless questions followed her. At family gatherings, silence clung to her presence like smoke. Then came the hospital test. The doctor cleared his throat. Madam, your womb is healthy. Relief flooded Zainab until the doctor turned to Tunde. Sir, your sperm count is extremely low. The words shattered Tunde's pride. Over the next 4 years, they tried everything. IVF cycles drained their savings. Injections bruised Zainab's arms. Medications left her nauseous, weak, and dizzy. Tunde sold his car, borrowed money, and sat alone in pharmacies staring at shelves as if answers might suddenly appear. I failed you, he whispered one night, voice breaking. But Zainab held his face gently. You are my husband. We will face this together. Then, when doctors advised donor options, the impossible happened. Zainab became pregnant naturally. When the test showed 2 lines, Tunde collapsed to the floor and cried like a child. This baby, he whispered, pressing his palm against her belly, is proof that God remembered us. That afternoon, Zainab's water broke. Fear seized her. She tried calling Tunde, no signal. Airport congestion swallowed her calls. She sent a voice note, breathless and shaking. Tunde. I'm in labor. No reply. She grabbed her keys and drove herself toward the hospital, whispering prayers between contractions, gripping the steering wheel as pain tore through her body. At an intersection near the main road, a black luxury SUV suddenly crossed her lane. Too fast. Too close. Zainab slammed the brakes. The impact was small, but devastating. Metal scraped. Her body jolted forward. A sharp pain exploded through her abdomen. She screamed. The SUV door opened. Mrs. Adeyemi stepped out, elegant, furious, untouched. What nonsense is this? She snapped. Zainab staggered out, blood already staining her dress. I'm sorry, she cried. Please. I'm in labor. I need the hospital. Mrs. Adeyemi scoffed. You scratched my car. Another contraction hit. Zainab fell to her knees. Please, she begged. My baby. Before she could finish, Mrs. Adeyemi slapped her hard across the face. The sound echoed down the street. Shameless girl, she shouted. Zainab screamed as pain ripped through her body again. Mrs. Adeyemi shoved her, sending her crashing onto the road. Police are coming, she said coldly. You're not going anywhere. Zainab tried calling Tunde again. Nothing. Her phone slipped from her fingers. Across the street, a man recorded everything, shocked by the cruelty, and sent the video to Tunde, not knowing the pregnant woman was his wife. Minutes dragged. Zainab bled, cried, and grew weaker. Sirens wailed faintly in the distance. By the time the police arrived, Zainab was barely conscious. Officers forced Mrs. Adeyemi aside and rushed Zainab into an ambulance. Blood soaked the stretcher as sirens screamed toward the hospital. Doctors worked frantically. Machines beeped. Nurses shouted instructions. But the baby never cried. The silence afterward was unbearable. Tunde arrived just as the doctor stepped out. "We are sorry," the doctor said quietly. "The baby didn't survive." Tunde collapsed to the floor. Then his phone buzzed. He watched the video. He saw his wife, pregnant, bleeding, begging. And he saw his mother, slapping her, pushing her, blocking her path. The world ended. Tunde drove home shaking. Mrs. Adeyemi sat calmly in the living room. "That girl," she said casually, "was dramatic." Tunde dropped to his knees. "That girl," he whispered, "was my wife." Silence swallowed the room. "And the baby she carried," he continued, voice breaking, "was the only child I may ever have." Mrs. Adeyemi froze. For the first time, power abandoned her. Tunde stood up and made a call. "I want her detained," he said. "She caused my child's death." Mrs. Adeyemi spent days in a police cell, no servants, no respect, no control. She cried, begged, screamed. "Tunde, I didn't know." He visited once. "You didn't know," he said quietly. "But you chose cruelty." Zainab survived physically, but something inside her died. She left the marriage quietly. "I forgive you," she told Mrs. Adeyemi. "But I cannot stay." Tunde begged. Cried. Knelt. But some losses cannot be undone. Mrs. Adeyemi was released weeks later, a woman the world still called powerful, but who no longer felt it. She returned to her mansion, where everything remained exactly the same: polished floors, silent staff, expensive furniture untouched by time. Yet nothing felt familiar. The house was too quiet. At night, sleep refused to come. When she closed her eyes, she no longer saw wealth or status. She saw Zainab on the road, clutching her stomach, begging. She heard her own voice, sharp and unforgiving. She felt the phantom sting of her slap still burning in her palm. She would wake suddenly, heart racing, whispering words she could never make right. "I didn't know. I didn't know." But the silence never answered. Sometimes she wandered into the guest room she once planned to turn into a nursery. It stayed empty. No toys. No laughter. Only curtains lifting softly in the dark like a sigh. She tried to pray, but guilt sat heavier than faith. She tried to speak to Tunde, but he no longer came. Her wealth could buy doctors, lawyers, comfort, everything except forgetfulness. And that became her punishment. Not prison walls. Not public shame. But memory. Because every night, Mrs. Adeyemi relived the moment she chose pride over compassion, and destroyed the only heir her family would ever have. Not with a weapon, but with a cruelty she could never undo. Moral lesson. In the end, it was not the slap alone that destroyed Mrs. Adeyemi's legacy. It was a single moment of pride that outweighed compassion. Power does not give the right to crush others. Status does not excuse cruelty. And anger, when unchecked, can destroy lives in seconds. We may never know who stands before us in moments of conflict: a future mother, a destiny carrier, a life tied to our own. Kindness delayed can become regret forever. So choose mercy, even when you believe you are right.